Big or small, she owns the scene. A legend strong, a voice supreme.
Oh, it's like, yeah, some of the people I've had an opportunity to meet, let alone work with, it's like my biggest acting job is when I'm just trying to act really cool. Like, this is no big deal. Hi, Julia. Yeah, Julia, call you Julia. Sure, Julia Roberts. Want to talk about her kids, Julia? Yeah, okay. She's
I
awesome,
too have a child.
She's amazing.
I'm just like you. Yeah.
She would Julia Roberts would walk into a room and it would get brighter. Like, she really is a movie star. Yeah, she's amazing. I was really impressed with her. Super impressed.
Yeah. I'd probably melt under like something, because I've not met, well, maybe one or two people near that level, but like not to really interact with either. Like in the room with, but not like John Cleese. I got to meet him, and I had a whole thing that I planned on saying, and I was like, "This is my wife."
Cucumber. I mean, that's all you say, or something weird, right?
Because I grew up worshiping everything he wrote and his acting styles and his comedic timing, and like I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. And of course, I came nowhere near that, but like to meet him in real life was just wow, blew me away. So now I kind of get when people are like, I think the word is gobsmacked. I like it. It's a good word.
I getcha.
I did have a question, and I've talked to other voice actors, never got to ask this, but as a voice actor, how often do you get to improvise?
Oh, it really depends on the team you're working with. I mean, for some writers, and this is also for on camera, some writers, the written word is the written word is the written word. You say it as it is on the page. It's your job to lift it up and make it feel like your own. So for some other creators, showrunners, writers, they're really happy for you to improv around within to bring your own flair to it. It's really a case by case basis, but I respect writing very, very much. And so there's been the odd time I'm like, this just doesn't feel right to how I see the character. Can we maybe tweak it this way? Probably the best example from a voiceover perspective has been on My Little Pony. The every pony as opposed to everyone came up in the room between all the performers. It's like, well, why would we call everyone or man or woman? Wouldn't it be like, with like gentle pony or hooves, you wouldn't hit hands, you'd hit hooves. And so, that kind of tweak, and the writers were like, yeah, let's go with it. And it just kind of kept going from there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I always wonder, like, as you get involved with the character, 10 years is a long time. How much say do you have, like, as it continues to go, like, no, remember in episode 3, I said this line, we can't have this fact change. You get protective and
you can. And I think that's why you see, especially on television, a lot of stars of shows eventually being attached as a producer in the front credit. And that's because they're actually contributing to the content creation of the program, and, not just being the character. They're actually affecting the Bible, the story, how it's going to go, how it's going to continue to go and evolve. But that's not like every project.
Showrunner, but for that character.
Well, or just in general, like for the whole show, like look, Reese Witherspoon, right? She'll act in projects and she produces them. So does Nicole Kidman. Like you want to have your input on the character, but also how on the whole project, right? That creative glove on everything to help shape it. So it's more consistent with your brand, perhaps, or just the story at heart. You really feel fiercely about, you want it to be this perspective. And, as actors, sometimes, the attitude is just say your lines and go away. And we don't want your opinion. Thank you. We're paying you to say ours. And then sometimes you're lucky you meet people who want to collaborate. And then, when you start doing that, it's really exciting. And that's when you see a lot of performers start maybe being actor, director, actor, producer, actor, writer. Yeah.
So with or without your influence, what would you say Princess Celestia, from the first time you played the character to the last time, how much change has there been, would you say? Like when you look back at the first thing you did and compared to the last thing, how different is it for you? Oh, we'll get to that question right after this.
You know what? It wasn't that different, because although when you're an actor, you look at everything that's you're trying to figure out who is this character. So you look at all the information in the script, but then you have to fill in the blanks. And, even though she's a royal, she's a person too. So I was always like, I think, I would posit things like, I think the 80s was the best time for Celestia, or maybe she dated so and so in a past life, or she's actually a real trickster but has to be serious all the time. And as the show went on, we started to be able to explore other facets, there's that word again, of the character. But as an actor trying to bring that character to life, although you didn't maybe see it in the words I was saying, good actors do their homework and they know their history, they know who they are, where they've come from, and where they're going. And that's why, as viewers, we fall in love with those performances that just encapsulate so much and allow us to go along with that ride and wonder with them, you know?
Awesome. No, that's a great answer. Thank you. I didn't quite go there. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, that makes sense. Because like you're building. It's still a building process every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go with the question. Josh, you want to get that question up again? How much has a friendship is magic impacted you during and after the show?
Oh, well, so
Thank you,
many
Twilight
ways.
Sparrow.
Yeah, that was great. Hi, thanks for the question. It's huge. I mean, to be involved in such a flighty industry, to be able to have the privilege to be involved with something that's around for such a long period of time is a rarity. There's very few shows that go over 200 episodes, right?
Right.
But beyond that, to be able to travel with it and meet fans from all over the world, and to start to understand the impact that the show has had in people's lives, how the creativity inspired in the fandom, meeting some fans when they were kids and then seeing them again as they were adults. It's really humbling, super, super humbling. And
It grounds you. Like, what you're doing is like, it's important, but it's important. It matters in a different level.
yeah, but
When you
also
meet those
for
people
me, yeah. But on My Little Pony, being around that show for that long, like it's when you do a TV series, when you do a guest star on a show, you kind of parachute in, you do the show and you leave. And if you're there for at least, maybe on average it's 10 days to shoot an episode of television these days, you'll get to maybe just start to know everybody's name by the time you have to leave, because there's hundreds of people on the show. But when you get to be there week in and week out, you get to know everyone and really start to understand all the different layers, the pipeline of the production. And that's where I really started getting excited by the process of animation and all the different people involved in bringing these ideas to life. And that's where, I'd done some directing of shorts before and some reality television show at that point. But that's where I was like,
I do want to talk
really,
about that.
I want to go. I'd love to be on the other side of the glass and work on that with that team and helping people bring things to life, and really wanting to work with young performers and helping them bring the best out of them, So
Right.
That's another thing the show did was help give me the confidence to add another job option into my pile of opportunities, with voice directing.
Nice. Speaking of young performers, we have a special video question that, all right, Josh has a daughter who is a fan of your work.
Okay, I love that.
We have a special video that we let her record, and we're going to play for you. A question for you. Josh, you ready?
Okay.
Yeah, here we go.
Shoot.
Hi, my name is Lyla, and I wanted to ask you a question. I really like the show My Little Pony, and I wanted to ask you this. If you had a pony power, what would it be?
If I had a pony power?
I believe she's asking, if you could pick one pony power to have in real life, what would that be? Yeah.
To fly. Hi, Lyla. I love your question. Thank you. I think Princess Celestia would answer it this way. Well, Lyla, thank you for your lovely question. I love flying, but my favorite thing is using something called a zip line. Do you know what that is, Lyla? It's when you zoom along faster than the speed of sound and you get to go as you fly, and it's wonderful. So flying, which I can do, is probably my favorite pony power of all. And as Nicole, Lyla, I would love to fly. I have dreams about flying. So, yeah.
And what was her answer, Josh? She had her own, of course.
Mine would be Twilight Sparkle's powers, because I could fly and I would have really cool powers. So, yeah, and she's my favorite color, purple. So thank you for answering. I will talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyla. Oh, melting. Oh, love it.
Thank
Oh, that's
you.
great.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
how well she loves that. Do we have any more questions, Josh, from the audience? I do want to open up to people. Another question from Pro One Shot. Craziest fan interaction either from a PonyCon or somewhere random.
My very first convention I did was back in the 90s, and it was for Kung Fu the Legend Continues. And we piggybacked on a Star Trek convention. And this was
Star Trek,
all
nice.
new to me, this idea, like a Comic-Con in Toronto, kind of, and I turn on, they're like, Nicole, this is your security. And it was a 6'2" tall guy dressed as a Klingon. And I was like,
Were you a Star Trek fan before this, by the way?
I love Star Trek, yes,
Okay,
very,
me
very
too.
much. But I was not prepared for that. I was excited and terrified at the same time. So it wasn't necessarily a fan interaction, but it was just the environment around that, just the passion and the commitment was incredible.
Yeah.
So I love that. Crazy fan. I mean, I just, when sometimes people get really overwhelmed. My favorite thing is when I see kids there with their parents, just supporting their children, whatever they're exploring and having questions for without any judgment. I love that. And sometimes people just get so excited they can't talk, and they get and I feel that way too. I've met people that I've been absolutely like, like, what do you say?
Now I have to work with you too.
Yeah. So to be able, there's nothing really crazy. Everyone's been super respectful, and
That's amazing. That's great. I found that the conventions are generally full of people with tons of respect. Even like when you walk down certain aisles, or like, please don't have a camera out. Most people won't. Like, just even if they're not taking a bill, just won't even pull it out. I've seen a lot of respect. Actually, my first convention was a Star Trek convention, pure Star Trek before conventions were a thing, and when people dressed up, and it wasn't like normal, like it is now. Like they call it cosplay now. Back then, they called it nerd. It was like, but I went to one. I didn't dress up, but it was. I loved that there was a feeling of family sort of thing. Like, we all enjoy this one thing. We get it's a TV show, that's fine. But it's really nice. And then going to bigger Comic Cons and everything as they became pop culture cons even. I still like that feeling of we're all here because we like something a little bit cool. It's and I'm glad that on the other side you get to enjoy it too.
Oh, I do. And I love smaller conventions because it just feels less managed. Like some of the really big ones, there's no room for anything spontaneous, and everything is so manicured and managed. That to be able to go to a bit of a smaller convention where it's okay if you want to take a few minutes longer to talk to somebody, or, I love walking around into the vendor hall and seeing all the work that everybody has done on things. Like, it's just so incredible. It's mind blowing. So, I do like a little bit more of that vibe. The big ones are great, but they're also intimidating for people who are there as guests. Like, it's just like, oh my God, it's like so big.
Yeah, you're just being escorted around. Stand here, do this. 4 hours, I'll be back to get you. Stand here, do that. I went to AwesomeCon in DC, and there was a line to meet David Tennant and Billy Piper from Doctor Who, and the line to get a photo with them was, and it was something like $200. The line was 3 to 4 hours deep, with reservations, and then they would get to the autograph table if they had time to sign autographs for the 2040, whatever. I'm like, this is too much. I like smaller conventions where I could literally walk past, stand in line, and say, oh, I remember you, like, and then go and say hi and thank you and all the things. I'm not knocking AwesomeCon. It was an amazing. It's still, I haven't been there in a couple of years, but it's a great convention. I just prefer like the smaller and even like the ones where like that are in a sports complex that's not a big indoor sports complex. So the great ones for me.
Yeah. I get you. One of the biggest ones, just real quick on that, like where it was like it was like in an arena, was they used to do BronyCon, which was just for My Little Pony. And I think the last one, there was like 13,000 fans. But at one point we were lining up for autographs, and the line, I think it was like the length of a hockey arena, and it went out the door and around the corner. And I remember sitting there for about 3.5 hours, just signing and trying to have a meaningful connection. And, it's like, they're like, you're done. I'm like, no, there's been people who've been here for hours. I'm going to stay until everybody who's here. Like, if you want to stop the line, that's on you, organizer. Right. But everyone who's here, I'm not going to go. I'm here. And, again, super, super humbling. And just getting to hear the stories of how something you've done has been meaningful or inspirational or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't take any of that for granted.
I figure there are some people who do it just for money, but I assume that most people are there to meet the fans, to find out how their work is impacted, to find out what people liked or didn't. Nobody, I'm sure not a lot of people say I didn't like that, but to find out how it's impacting. And to show the love back to their fans. Every time I hear, I love the fans, thank you fans. When they show up at conventions like this, that's when I see it. Like, I'm here for you because you put me here. Thank you.
Without an audience, you don't have a job. It's a relationship. It's not just something you do in isolation.
Yeah.
You need the people to consume and watch and be affected by it for you to have the awesome responsibility and privilege to infect those with your art and talent, hopefully.
And they didn't want just an autograph because they could get that in the mail. They wanted to meet you. They wanted to have 1 second, whatever amount personal connection of like, hey, I met that person. We exchanged, we saw each other's eyeballs. That's important.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions, Josh, or you want me to go on? Have a great one. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Be safe out there. Treat each other well.